Welcome, dear insiders and curious hearts, to Secrets Behind the Stars. Tonight we don't just relay a rumor, we open the door to a love story shaken by the weight of fame and the ache of expectation. Take a breath and step closer, because what unfolded between the glittering waters of the Bosphorus and the hushed embrace of a woodland hideaway will make you rethink what a modern fairy tale demands. Before we begin, if you want to ride in the front seat of every twist and confession, subscribe to Secrets Behind the Stars, tap the bell, and join our growing family. Your support turns whispers into revelations. Everything had been orchestrated like a prestige film finale. Picture it. A villa that seemed to float above the water, a forest of white blooms, crystal strands catching the last warmth of the setting sun, and an army of dignified servers threading between tables where the cream of entertainment polished their smiles. Barış Baktas and Yağmur Yüksel stood on the brink of the moment millions had daydreamed for them. Even the air felt rehearsed, the florist knew the order of the petals, the band rehearsed the march until it rang like destiny itself. The last bows were tied, the last check signed. It was supposed to be triumph. But triumph has a fragile skin. The fracture didn't arrive slowly, it struck like cold lightning. Hours before the music would rise and the aisle would glow, the bride was gone. Not a playful delay, not a star's caprice, but an absence that swallowed sound. In the bridal suite, time froze around the empty dress, an immaculate ghost of silk and thread resting on its form. On the vanity, makeup brushes lay where they'd been placed, as if waiting for a hand that never returned. Yağmur's mother drifted from corner to corner with her phone clutched like a lifeline, mascara cutting paths down her cheeks as she murmured to no one and everyone, "She was so happy this morning. She said today would be the day." Where did she go? Why would she go? Whispers, the kind that slice more than they question, began to multiply. Crew members tried to move like they were invisible, guests exchanged glances that became opinions, then verdicts. And at the center, the man of the hour did not shatter. Barış did not rage. He did not make speeches to protect his pride. He stood like something carved by storms and salt, steady and unmovable. Those close enough to hear caught the refrain he kept offering to anxious planners and nervous friends: "I know the woman I love. She would not vanish without a reason that tears at her own heart. There is a truth we don't see yet." In that single conviction, he became proof that devotion can be loud without raising its voice. As evening folded over Istanbul, a small sound broke the stalemate, a notification on the manager's phone. No explanation, no name, only a set of coordinates, a pin dropped far from the chandeliers and the gossiping tables. The location pointed to a countryside nook where the city's tongue could not reach. Barış didn't wait for a strategy or a press line. He walked past the cameras, past the speculation, past the bouquets destined to witness vows that would not be heard. He drove with the focus of someone who understands there are moments when reputation can burn while love is saved. The cottage stood where pavement forgot its purpose, wrapped in trees that filtered the last light of the day. Inside, the story bent. Yağmur wasn't a deserter of romance. She was a woman undone by the machine that had declared her fairy tale property. Curled near a window, her breath short and raw, she lifted her eyes swollen by tears that had finally stopped asking permission, and managed, in a voice that quivered and steadied in turns, "I ran. Not from you. Please know that. I ran from everything else. From noise pretending to be love. From the pressure to be perfect in a world that edits out every flaw. I didn't know how to be myself and also be what they want." Barış lowered himself to the floor beside her, eliminating every inch of distance until his presence had the shape of comfort. He didn't mention cost, didn't tally the losses, didn't summon the names of the powerful to anchor his hurt. He held her cold hands as if warming them could thaw the panic. "If time is what you need, it is yours," he said. "If space is what helps you breathe, I will make it. I don't want a ceremony applauded by strangers. I want a life with you that we can stand inside without collapsing." In that humble room, without a gaze to witness it, the real vows were spoken. They folded into each other with the force of a promise that doesn't need an altar. The quiet became ceremonial. There were no officiants, no rings sliding for the cameras, no swell of orchestrated strings. Just two people who chose to stay, while the world outside demanded a spectacle. And that is where the story turns on its axis, not at a grand entrance, but at a whispered decision to keep going, to heal side by side. Let me pause and ask you, our community at Secrets Behind the Stars, what would you have done? Would you have had Yağmur's courage to pull the emergency brake on the most public day of your life to save your sanity? Would you have had Barış's patience to protect love instead of ego when the lights were the harshest? Tell me in the comments. Would you call it selfish, or would you name it bravery? If this story moves you, support Secrets Behind the Stars with a like and a subscription, because your voice keeps these conversations honest. Mourning demanded consequences. The media waited for contrition, for timeline breakdowns and sound bites that could be replayed into dust. There were calls from sponsors, from stylists, from magazines that had pre-written their covers. But the couple offered nothing. Silence rose like a wall. Barış and Yağmur cancelled public appearances, shut down their socials, and settled in the cottage that had seen their breaking point transform into a beginning. For a week, the only sound was wind through leaves and a kettle's gentle complaint. Then, almost by accident, a single thread of information slipped. It came from Barış's sister during an interview that was supposed to be about something else entirely. She didn't divulge a secret so much as offer a truth shaped like kindness. They're together, but they're healing. Sometimes love needs quiet more than declarations. That line traveled on every timeline with unusual grace. Instead of knives, the public pulled out open palms. The phrase Barış and Yağmur always started to appear in captions and comments, not in defiance, but in recognition that some stories breathe better when the audience leans back. One message captured the mood: better a pause that is honest than a yes that is rehearsed. The shift was remarkable. Those who had sharpened their skepticism found themselves disarmed by tenderness. A few days later, the man who had refused to flinch offered his own chapter. Not from a studio with good lighting, but from the woods nearby, walking with his phone as the only witness. Sun sifted through branches. Birds made a soundtrack of their own. Barış spoke without polish, his voice steady, his eyes unguarded. I've learned that a ceremony does not define what two people are, he said. I've learned that silence can hold a relationship together better than 1,000 explanations. And I've learned that love includes waiting. I am here. I'm not moving. When you're ready, we step forward, together. The video rippled outward, gathering millions of views not because it was grand, but because it was sincere. The following day, without fanfare or interview, Yağmur answered in the softest way a person can. An Instagram story appeared, a close shot of two hands intertwined, their hands, skin marked by the realness of living, not the airbrushed promise of a poster. Underneath, a line that undid even the cynics. Thank you for holding me when I could not hold myself. Journalists, for once, ran out of speculation. The couple's team released a minimal statement: Barış Baktas and Yağmur Yüksel are prioritizing their personal well-being. There were no rescheduled dates offered, no grand gesture to pacify the appetite for headlines. In a culture addicted to spectacle, they chose a quiet revolution: privacy. Brick by brick, away from lenses, they began again. No countdowns, no leaked fittings, no thrones made of floral arches. Just conversations that stretched into the small hours, meals eaten without posting, walks where the only audience was the sky. Maybe the pageantry will return one day. Maybe it won't. A fan summed it up gracefully: they already married with their eyes, with forgiveness, with truth. Here at Secrets Behind the Stars, we'll keep following their path with respect for the boundaries they're building. Because sometimes love is loudest when it speaks softly, and sometimes the strongest statement is the one that never asks for applause. Where do you stand? Do you think this trial has welded Barış and Yağmur into something unbreakable, or will the memory of that night haunt every future step? Share your thoughts below. Your perspectives are the heartbeat of this community. Thank you for staying with us through every tremble, every choice, every breath of this story. This is Secrets Behind the Stars, signing off with gratitude, until the next truth finds its way to your screen.